What's up, YouTubers? It's Chad Strat, aka Montana Chill. Today, I wanted to go through a host of compressors, both rack extension and VSTs. And this is just my review of my favorite compressors, and we'll call this the home studio entry, mid-level, novice, intermediate, semi-advanced compressor review. Okay, this is not like, I'm comparing this to hardware and I know what I'm talking about and I know what I'm looking for in terms of the nuance of hardware versus software. This is not that kind of compressor review. This is, I'm an everyday guy. I make music. I've stumbled across free compressors, paid compressors, and this is my take on that. So a couple qualifiers. First of all, not every compressor out in the market is here. This is generally between the $0 free and $100 range. I think there's some great compressors in here. I've never felt the need to go spend $350 on a compressor, a software compressor, because I'm really happy with most of these compressors. There's some fantastic software here that we're going to talk about. And I don't, for my level of producing and music making, specifically hip hop, because hip hop's generally going to be a little dirtier anyway. I don't need the absolute best of the best of the best. I just need really good quality. I just need, most cases I actually prefer color. So to each their own. So first thing is, I'm not going to have every compressor in here. If you don't see your favorite compressor in here, if you think there's one within the $100 range I should look at, please drop a note, a comment, give a suggestion, and I'll give it a look. Absolutely. There's not, the other thing worth mentioning is there's a lot that I've tried that aren't in this list. I've tried to just kind of cover a different gamut of most commonly used and some that are not, that I just absolutely love and why. So don't, I might have already tried it, so my response may just be, yeah, I tried that, not really a fan. The second qualifier is this, this is my opinion, and I'm going to offend some of you because, compressors are kind of like politics. Everybody's got their view, and they're really strong views, so I'm probably going to offend some of you. So a little bit qualifier there, but this is for me. I think I've got a lot of experience, a lot to bring to the table, and what sort of use cases some of these are really great at. But then there's some that I can guarantee I'm going to offend some of you. So take it with a grain of salt. Feel free to leave a comment, tell me to go to hell. But I can take it. I got thick skin. But I hope for some of you that this is a helpful video. So what I've done is I've got a little drum track, and there's the dry sound. It's a pretty basic acoustic kit. First thing we're going to start with is the McDSP C670, and this is modeled after PuigChild 670. Pretty close, as I understand it. Sans the input driver. You don't have an input knob here to drive the circuitry. That's probably on purpose on McDSP's part. I do notice that when I compare that to the PuigChild 670 Waves plugin, which is modeled after the same PuigChild unit, or era rather, it's the input driver allows you to get a little bit subtle different sound or quality from the compressor. This is a 50 style compressor. It's really smooth, really great on horns, guitars. It's just a good all around compressor. I use this often. It's not my most used compressor, but I do use it a lot. Let's take a listen. Subtle, smashed, quick release, slow release, gain compensation. Pretty good compressor. I like it a lot. Highly recommend it. It's good, great for the money. I'm gonna go through the McDSP rack extension suite here. What they call the Frog here. A lot of people rave about this on drums. I'm gonna be completely honest. I do not use this. I'm just not really impressed with it. If you're really not particular about what drums sound like when you smash them, you're gonna love this, I guess. There's a couple things. I mean, it doesn't have a mix, dry wet mix knob. The low end on here, if you listen to the kick, it just allows like a lot more rumble. it's not really my favorite. It's really vanilla, plain Jane. I feel like, you know, they had an algorithm sitting in a closet somewhere and they decided to, you know, as they were learning to just put that into a plugin and call it the Frog. 670 doesn't feel like this. 670 feels like intentionally modeled, intentionally designed. It's got a color to it. And maybe as I talk about these, you'll start to realize maybe I just hate compressors that, or I shouldn't say hate, strongly dislike compressors that don't bring a lot to the table in terms of color and vibe. Because vibe for hip hop, to me, vibe is like critical number one. If you're going to use a plugin, it's got to bring some vibe. If it's not bringing vibe, and then, you know, vibe's a loose word that means a lot of different things to a lot of people, but number one, it starts with color. Are you bringing some color vibe to that? And Frog, nothing. The next one, MooTube. Now this one does bring some color, but this is a real subtle compressor. You can hear here just lots of compression, or very little compression, lots of compression, attack, recovery, gain. It does bring some color and some vibe, but it's really not great for drums. This is really better for like airy instruments like a soft clarinet, a flute, a saxophone, a vocal. This is a pretty good compressor that brings a good warmth to the sound. Frankly speaking, given that, I actually don't use it ever because there's other compressors in here that do the same thing. They do it a little bit better, my opinion. But it's a great start. It's a good pack. I think you can get the 3 of these for a deal. Why not? I think it was like whatever, $100 you get all 3, something like that. Pretty good deal. The next one that I'm going to talk about is the DCAM bus comp. Now I'm not going to talk about the DCAM channel comp because I don't like it at all, and I feel like if I'm gonna do any channel compression that's pretty rudimentary and basic, I mean, I'm just using the Reason console compression because it's modeled after the SSL. It sounds smoother, simpler interface. It's basic. You know, you can't get much more basic than the channel comp for DCAM. So not my gig. However, bus comp is amazing for a couple of reasons. One, you get the dry wet mix knob, which is amazing. 2, you get the high pass filter, which is amazing. You get some low end transparency there. And 3, you can get some saturation and drive the input of your source coming in. And it's just a much more versatile compressor in that regard. You can really drive that sucker and smash the crap out of it. I can pass those low ends through. And then listen to that. Listen to the source I'm compressing. Bring back some of the original. I mean, that's a pretty good compressor right there. I use the DCAM bus comp definitely on every final mix. Number one, every single one. I use that DCAM bus comp in my master section. And when I have, instead of like say a drum loop and I have drum tracks individually mic'd, I'm using DCAM bus comp. Bar none. So highly recommend it. Get it. It's a must-have in my opinion. It's a must-have rack extension, DCAM bus comp. And I almost consider this C670 a must-have, by the way. Not quite. So there's that. The next one I'm going to talk about is the Softube FET compressor. This is the part of the video where I offend a lot of you because I see people like rave about this compressor and they recommend it and all these things. Swear to you guys, I hate this compressor. Strongly dislike, loathe. I'll tell you why, because I spent money on it before it was on sale. Number one, because everybody said I should. Number 2, I have given it the benefit of the doubt and tried it on almost every use case I could think of, and really wanted it to work. Really wanted for it to capture vibe and, you know, like serve the purpose. You know, get something to sit into a mix. Get specific frequencies or peaks to, you know, just, you know, sit better. And it's a failure every time. It's not for, trust me, I understand compression. I understand how to work a compressor. I understand, you know, working these, you know, detectors. I get it. I do not like this compressor. I mean, I'm sorry guys. This is one of my biggest rack extension regrets is this Softube FET compressor. I'm sure some of you love it, and some of you are just getting, and you're probably already typing hate to me. Bring the hate, bring it. I can take it. I can totally justify. There's a lot of other compressors that do a much better job than the Softube FET. And I'll say that for nearly every genre, because I do some dance, dubstep, hip hop, pop. I mean, I've done a lot of mixing, and out. Do not spend money on that. I'm sorry. What I would spend money on is this Cakewalk RE2A, specifically for vocals. And actually, I mean, I've used this on pretty much everything to get a different vibe, because it does have like a drum. You know, you can see I've got a preset set here, drum mix. I mean, you can squash the crap out of things. You can get a little bit more subtle. You can kick it into limiter mode, get it a little bit more abrupt. And I apologize for my glitchy audio. I've got a new computer coming next week, so hopefully my video quality gets a little better. When I run the video recorder and Reason at the same time, it gets sometimes, and it's without reason, or without logic. No, without cause. There you go. I just named 2 DAWs in one sentence. That's funny. But I love this thing. I use this Cakewalk RE2A, and the other thing that I'll say is I'm going to go ahead and bring up the Waves version of I believe it's the LA2A. This is the original. The CLA2A versus the Cakewalk RE2A. They have a lot of similarities. They both have your high frequency flat response. They both have a toggle on the back here. You can change the I can move this the fast reset or classic. They both have compressor limiter. They both have, you know, 2-knob, you know, gain, peak reduction. So they're very similar. Sound wise, they're very similar. I'll go ahead and compare them for you. Do this one. Play this. So if you know, here's my take on these two. I really like the Cakewalk RE2A better than the Waves CLA2A. And the reason is very nuanced but specific, and the reason is color. I believe that the RE2A brings a little bit more vibe and a little bit color. It just, and I have been on a studio rack version of the LA2A, and to me, I think the Cakewalk brings a little bit. It's like they actually modeled a vintage unit, and it sounds that way. The Waves one sounds like they modeled the circuitry, and you know, it's every unit's different, but I don't know. You can turn the analog mode on, and it has a little bit different nuance to it. And I really like it. I mean, like one thing I'll say, a reason to get the Waves version, it's $29 when it's on sale. So, duh. I mean, the Cakewalk's $100, I think. So, the Waves is a better deal, and you can use it. Like I'll switch over to Ableton Live or Logic from time to time, and the Waves is nice because you can bring it into other DAWs. The rack extension you cannot. So there is a benefit there. So if you were going to choose between them, I would choose the Waves. However, based on versatility, if you were to choose between them based on versatility, I would choose the Waves. If you were to choose between them based on the tonality and the color, I would choose the Cakewalk. Personal opinion. Everybody's got their opinions. So the next one I'll talk about is the PuigChild. We'll just go ahead and take a quick listen to that one. And I apologize for my audio on this one. Depending on the code, the programming, the algorithms, some more intense algorithms are going to affect my video and audio recording than others. So I'll be honest, this is a demo version of the PuigChild 670, and the reason I have not bought it is because I have the McDSP C670, which is effectively the same vibe. I'll say that the PuigChild has a little bit more color. It's a little bit more true. So it probably will end up in my arsenal. But the C670 is really strong, really good, really worth the money. And, you know, you can get I think You can get all 3 of the McDSPs for $100. PuigChild is $60 on sale, normally $350. So I mean, it's a great plugin. Love it. Highly recommend it. But in terms of the cost value decision, you may want to go with the McDSP first. The next one I'm going to talk about is the Tokyo Dawn Labs Kotelnyk. This is a really good plugin. It's free. It's versatile. It's powerful. Brings some features that none of the other compressors bring, and I'll go through that to some subtle degree. They have a gentleman's edition that provides a little bit more functionality, more presets, and you're supporting a great offering, a great company that's putting a really strong offering. And this compressor had me pretty sold, but the next one that I'm going to go over is going to just, is where I feel they've like changed the digital mixing world, in my opinion. So some of the features that make this cool is, first of all, your high pass filter. If you're not, I've got another video you can look up about high pass compression. I think you should look into it. It's a strong way to mix specifically drums, anything, and also bass guitar as well. So anything that has that low end, you want to, that rich bottom end or sub frequencies, you want to just kind of leave alone while you're doing some compression work on that sound source. You want to think about high pass compression. So it's got good presets, but some of the really unique thing about this compressor is the fact that it offers both peak and RMS compression. So this is an advanced compressor for advanced users that understand what's happening under the hood. Am I compressing a peak or am I compressing the normalized average? And that's the difference. But you can blend them using the peak crest knob here. But other than that, it's standard compression. But you do get the benefit of dry mix and your high pass compression. This is a really, 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 really good plugin. It's free. Honestly, you're really an idiot if you don't go grab this. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be mean, but you need it, get it, use it, learn it, love it. You'll use it. This is not my most used compressor, but it is a situational compressor. If I were doing strictly dance music, this would be probably number one because it doesn't have a lot of vibe, but it does have a lot of versatility. It's not going to color the tone very much. But in terms of transparency, it's really strong, and versatility, it's really strong, and it's, need I say it again, free. So go get that. The next one is going to be a little bit of a head scratcher for you guys. You're going to look at this and sort of look at it and go, I don't understand. Why is an EQ in here? And I believe that Waves just released one, and several other plugin vendors are starting to catch on. They're basically playing catch up to Tokyo Dawn Labs Nova here, because this thing is a game changer. It's been around for years, number one, and there's a lot of plugins out there. I think I'm drawing a blank on brands, but they're expensive. They're really expensive. You're gonna pay a lot of money to get this functionality right here that I'm gonna show you. And the first piece of that functionality is clicking out in the space here on my EQ. I'm in the wideband mode, and within wideband, I can just turn on the actual unit first. I can turn on compression overall. So some neat things: standard ratio, attack, release, threshold, and then dry mix. Now again, this is not bringing a lot of vibe, but this is a compressor. And the cool thing here is, if I don't use the wideband compressor, I can click on any individual band and turn its compression on. You can see what's happening here. Dry mix. You can get your high pass, low pass, or sidechain. You can split it. The documentation on these are really good. And again, there's a gentleman's version for this that I highly recommend you go to Tokyo Dawn Labs and buy. I plan to. I have not yet. I just haven't had a need for the extra bands yet. But I'm sure there will be a time, and I will, without any question, go drop the $50 and support Tokyo Dawn Labs for this, and I encourage you to do that. But yeah, the use case of this is, if I've got, if I'm sampling vinyls, or I've got a track that I'm going to, just a sample that I'm working with, like a drum sample, and maybe they mixed it wrong and the hi-hats are too whatever. You can try to EQ this, but you don't necessarily have to. You can just apply some subtle compression on that band adjust the Q, the width of that band, and dial that in with some compression and not lose the crispness of your hi-hats in the back end, like where the way that they've mixed it. When you pull a band, you're pulling the band across everywhere. And if you control the compression of that EQ band, you're just limiting when that peak on that band instead of the peak overall. Again, it's a very situational, very specific use case that's extremely helpful. And if you have not experimented with this in your mixes, you need to. And I recommend Nova. It's free. It's a really quality plugin. It's just not a need to go get this. So I would consider for sure. I wouldn't go so far as to say the Kotelnyk is this, but categorically the Nova is a must-have VST, a must-have. And I would consider the LA2A or the RA2A a must-have. I would consider the DCAM Bus Comp a must-have. The TRD Nova a must-have. These are just must-haves for me. I use them in almost every single song, no matter what the genre. So I'll step off my soapbox. The Molot. Now there's a rack extension version of this, and what is it? The C1, the C1A, I think is what it is, or whatever it is. And it's worth noting that the guy that wrote this free VST, and I think this was written quite a while ago, might have been early 2000s, mid 2000s, maybe mid 2000s, mid to late 2000s. This was written originally, and it was written as a dev challenge, I think, and it's written by the same guy who now writes the underlying algorithms for the Tokyo Dawn Labs products. Okay, so I can't remember the guy's name. It's a Russian guy, but I thank him. He has changed my world and offered these free offerings and these amazing tools that are really, really good and strong. Why do I love this? I love the Molot for bus compression. And by the way, the rack extension version of this, same code base, works really well as well. And I think that's by Red Rock Sound. So look that up as well. But the first thing I like is the high pass filter. I've got another video where I talk about high pass filter compression. This is where you dial that in. Good threshold, built-in limiter, mid scoop, upsampling, a dry wet mix, 2 different modes, 2 different compressors built in one, alpha or sigma, which I believe is peak versus RMS, is the actual difference there. It's another way to say that. Again, compressing peaks or compressing the normalized average. So it to me, I use this a whole lot. I have used it on almost every single hip hop track I've done. It does also have a slight color to it. It's a great plugin, and again, it's free. I think that one I had to dig around the internet to find, but you can find it. It's out there. The next one I'll go through is the Acoustica Audio Tan. This is a really decent free plugin. I think there's some hoops. I've noticed it's a little bit more CPU intensive. You can hear my audio with my video recorder choking more than the others. So in that regard, not my favorite. But it is free. And if you're not on a RAM or CPU limited machine and you've got plenty to spare, it does have a good sound, does have a dry wet mix. I think some of these other ones are just as good and viable options. But it's worth a mention. I have used it on guitars, I think, and it sounded pretty decent. The next one that I want to talk about is single-handedly my new favorite, and that is the Clanghelm MJUC or MJUICE. This thing is just sweet. It's got 3 different algorithms built into one compressor. I think there is a free version, which is one of these. Maybe this one, the MK1. I can't remember. But if for $25 in the US, or 20 euros, you can buy this, and you get these 3 modes. And this also has a high pass filter here, the SFC or sidechain compression frequency. And that's basically just saying I'm going to not compress that low and I'm going to press the high end. Not sure why they phrased it that way. I don't know that I would have categorically called that sidechain, but does have the dry wet knob, so you can bring back some of those peaks into your mix there. It's a really simple usage. Each of the 3 modes has different options you can utilize. Like the MK3 has your density high ratio I stage, and your MK2 has your density and I stage. And they do different things. They kick in different circuitry under the hood, different transformers, a little bit more CPU intensive. But it just sounds good. And their documentation is really good on all 3 of these. You know, you can darken it up. You can drive it, get a little bit of saturation. Brighten that up. So this one gets the gold star for me for value, versatility, color and vibe, high pass compression, dry wet mix. And I'm just in love with this thing. I mean, for $25, it's just a great compressor. 3 different modes. You can try them all. I recommend. This is probably, I mean, this is great. This is a great plugin. And so with all these different options, I've gone through this. I'll call it a short list because there are a lot of compressors out there, and you just can tell. I mean, you can see I've got others here. I've got free ones from Computer Music. I've got, you know, we didn't even talk about the standard ones. There's other FX expansion ones. I've got, you know, I've got other Waves plugins. You know, lots of different VSTs out there, right? But these are sort of my favorites, most used. Best value, the best value in terms of paid ones to me is the Clanghelm. It's really good, really strong, really great plugin. The best free is probably the Kotelnyk. The Molot is a strong option. In terms of, you know, must-haves, definitely you want an LA2A emulated compressor, that classic vocal vibe. You definitely want a great bus comp with some high pass compression and some saturation. You definitely want your Fairchild modeled because it brings something different to the table. The Nova, so, you know, band specific compression, or it is just a, you know, almost for deep mixing, a must have. And the Clanghelm, just an overall versatile compressor. I mean, it's just worth $25. It's almost a no brainer. So again, there are really expensive compressors, you know, TubeTech. I didn't talk about TubeTech. Why? Well, for one, the TubeTech includes, you know, I've already got the PuigChild MEQ5 and EQP1A for mid and, you know, 3-band compression, or EQ rather. And I love the Waves plugins, and I use them a lot. I didn't talk about the Kramer. There's, you know, I didn't talk about Limiter 6. By the way, there is the TRD, the Tokyo Dawn Labs Nova, and the Nova 67. Here's the original version of that. It's very similar. A little leaner on CPU usage because of the UI needs, and but I think that the Tokyo Dawn Labs is a little bit more refined in terms of the algorithms under the hood. So yeah, I mean, there's just so many great compressors out there. I didn't go high dollar here because I feel like most of the people are watching my videos. Most of you are still learning quite a bit, and you're still figuring a lot of things out, and that could be a years long process. And so this is just my take. I imagine out of all my videos, I'm probably going to get the most hate mail out of this, specifically over the Softube FET. I'm expecting that. Expect nothing less. But man, compare that to the Clanghelm. It's really just not really a comparison, to be honest with you. Yeah. So thanks for watching. You guys are great. Please leave a comment, give a like, give a share. You know, if you have video suggestions you want to see, send me a message and I'll see if I can put something together. Thanks for watching. God bless.